Damian Lillard as an MVP candidate. So we're going to resume with that discussion. Joe, real quickly, who'd you vote for?
Well, and sorry if you're listening to this again live. Hopefully for the podcast, it probably won't be duplicated. But it was as difficult an MVP vote as I've had in all the time doing this. I do think that Dame will be a finalist. I do think that there will be a split vote, though, which will kind of hurt him and especially hurt his chances at being near the top. First of all, before I get into that, I think it's clear that Nikola Jokic is the MVP. And I think in basketball circles, it's going to be clear. I believe he will win. And he did get my vote for MVP in the number one hole. I ended up voting Dame fourth. And it was a difficult vote, especially in the guard kind of realm. You look at Dame, you look at Steph Curry, you look at Luka Doncic, and you look at Chris Paul. I think they were all sort of four guys who were on my final kind of, narrowing down the list ballot. And I went with Dame 4 and I went with Steph 5. And it was very difficult to leave out Luka and even CP3 for all he's done with Phoenix, with just a out of nowhere surge to second in the West and up to the possible number one seed to the end there, just kind of out of nowhere. And I know Monty Williams will get rewarded as coach of the year. In fact, he was my pick for coach of the year. But it was just really tough because of those four guys. And I think, a lot of it depends on your perspective, which player you like best, which player you think is most deserved. And right. I don't fault anyone for how they kind of slotted guys on down the list. I went Jokic. I followed up with Embiid was my number 2. I debated that too, because I think he was, in the running for 1 there for the longest time until he got hurt, but he only played 50, right. 52, 53 games or something. So I struggled with that. And then Giannis, man, you look at Giannis's numbers and you look at where Milwaukee is, And I think he got dinged a lot because he's a 2-time reigning MVP and his standard is so high. So I went Jokic, Embiid, Giannis, Dame, and Curry. Again, very difficult to narrow down. I struggled with the vote until the very end. I always wait until the last second. I always get that text from the NBA office like, hey, you're still good to vote today, right? They're due by the end of the day, but I like to take it all in to the end. And so I do think there's going to be a big split with those 4 guards on ballots, though, which may hurt Dame, but I think he's done enough to deserve to be in that top finalist category.
Yeah, I can't agree with, or excuse me, I can't disagree with any of that. See, I'm programmed to say I can't.
I was going to say, it's just embedded in there.
It just came out. I can't disagree with any of that. I've been on the Jokic train since February. Just what he's done as a big man with the assist numbers, the most assists for a center since Wilt Chamberlain, over 8 per game. Plus, he's at 27 and 11 in the other 2 categories. Shooting, I think his effective field goal percentage is well over 60, and he can shoot the 3 as a big man. He's just such a special talent, special player. And back in February, they were still like 8 or 9, I think, in the West. But I figured that they were going to rally and move up, and they did. And he's maintained their status, even with Jamal Murray going out. They still finished third. Yeah, I mean, still finished third, which is impressive, especially with Murray going down when he did. So, yeah, to me, he was number 1. It's a shame, though, that Lillard had such a bad April because that dragged him down. I mean, going into April, he was certainly a top 2, top 3 guy. He just had to finish strong with the schedule getting tougher. Schedule got tougher. Team went downhill. He went downhill. Yes, it's not his fault. Injuries played a role in that, but still, it happened, and it's going to cost him a real shot at the MVP. And they're probably not going to win the title. So had he gotten MVP, I mean, what a huge deal that would have been for the Blazers, for him, for the city, all the Blazers fans in this town, to have something like that to sort of validate how great he is and validate this franchise that hasn't won a title in 44 years, or whatever. So that's too bad. But still, he's having definitely an MVP caliber season. He just won't really be in the final contention for it.
We should marry our first go around at that discussion with our second, and we'll compare which one was better. Now, moving along a little bit, it's everybody's favorite topic. Well, not everybody's favorite topic, but certainly a contingent of Blazers fans, and it is become, if not the one of these stories of the second half of the Blazers season. All the speculation surrounding Coach Terry Stotts, who has established himself as a well-liked leader of this franchise, at least internally. I know he is very well-liked among players for the most part, and certainly with the players that matter on this team, chiefly with Damian Lillard, who time and time again has backed up his coach and spoken, in favor of his coach. But there has been, and I don't know where it came from, who is generating it, but a lot of banter about his job status. And I wonder, hey, coach of the month. He ends the season as the what month are we in? The May coach of the month.
Conference, yeah.
Yeah, so good for him. From your perspective, being in the weeds as you are, did the late run, was it enough to quell some of that talk? Does he need to win, have some success in the playoffs? Was he ever really in jeopardy? Was it fabricated? What are kind of your views on that?
I'm just baffled by the entire thing. Like again, it's my first year covering this team fully. He's been there 9 years. There's been some criticisms of him, periodically here and there. I think for the most part, they've overachieved the last 8 years, more so than they've ever underachieved. And this, to me, was an overachieving year. Like, I do not understand. First, I don't understand how people thought that this was a lockdown championship team, no excuses. Like, that to me is just hilariously ridiculous. And then the idea that, okay, the defense didn't really turn around like people wanted them to, but you were down. I mean, Nurkic, we talked about this. Nurkic came in out of shape. Then he gets injured. You're going with him. He's on the bench now. Kanter's coming in, who everyone knows is a negative defender on your interior. Your guards aren't that great defensively. So, yeah, your defense isn't very good in a league where everyone's shooting the lights out from outside, and they struggle defensively. But the fact that they were in fifth place at one point before the slide, and the slide coincided with Lillard having one of the worst months of his career, and then they right the ship. They finished in sixth place in the West, which we all know is super, super deep, clearly. To me, I'm like, resign, like extend the guy, right? And also he said we will be better defensively once Nurk is fully back. And over the last 12 games, they had one of the top 2 defensive ratings in the NBA. So I don't understand all the crying and whining. Now, some people say, oh, he doesn't make adjustments, or he doesn't do this, or he doesn't do that. Okay, maybe. I can't claim to have followed the team long enough as closely as I have this year to make that assessment. I just feel like, given all that they've been through, that where they are is pretty impressive. Now, I asked him, I think a week and a half ago, how it was coaching under this cloud. He said, hey, I just coached the team. This is the time of year for speculation. And then after the Denver game, he made a couple of statements commenting on, we had a lot of negativity out there. We played through it. We ignored it. Basically indicating that they had overcome a lot of adversity, including people outside the team saying negative things about him and about the squad. Almost, it sounded to me almost like I told you so situation. So it's hard for me to say whether I think he's coached his way out of trouble when I still don't understand why he was ever in trouble. And I never reported that he was in trouble. Other people have. But based on other people's reporting, based on conversations I have had, it does seem like he has to at least win a series to be safe, and maybe 2. Because here's the other thing, and I'll let you talk. It may not be a matter of, oh, Stotts is the problem or Stotts has to go. It may just come down to, okay, he's been here 9 years. It hasn't happened yet. Maybe they just need a new voice. That could be a thing. Who knows?
Yeah, and, it's a tough subject. They've made the playoffs 8 years in a row, the longest current active streak in the NBA. It's a pretty impressive streak considering they have had multiple roster rebuilds. You think about Wesley Matthews rupturing his Achilles. That was a fringe championship contending team. Insiders thought. I thought so. And then to blow up that roster on the fly and have a bunch of pieces put together and get to the second round of the playoffs that year was arguably one of the better coaching jobs around here in some time. And then, obviously the Western Conference trip 2 seasons ago, outside of wanting a new voice or changing direction for the sake of changing direction, or as someone I talked to fairly recently called it, Stotts fatigue. Maybe there's a little bit of that inside the organization, or just, after 9 years, it's very hard for a coach to last this long in one spot. In fact, outside of Spoelstra in Miami and Pop in San Antonio and Carlisle in Dallas, no coach has lasted this long. I believe Terry is the fourth longest tenured coach at one place in the NBA. And so there's a reason for that. It's a volatile, stressful, high pressure situation that doesn't lend itself for this type of stability. Correct. But the Blazers have leaned on their stability and used that to their advantage over the years, and have been outspoken about how that has helped them through the course of their tenure. Through let's not forget, Neil Olshey and Terry Stotts have been here for essentially the same duration. So I guess it depends on what side of the coin you fall on, whether it's roster construction or coaching, or some combination of the two of where this team is at, and also how you feel about the season as a whole. But what was weird about the talk at the time was the season wasn't over. We don't know what's going to happen. So right. Let's see what happens here in the next couple of weeks to month, and then you can kind of judge the full picture. But I will say it's one of those things where your own expectations sometimes get in the way, I think. I don't know how many people thought this team was a championship contender, but people inside the organization, specifically, Dame and higher ups, came out over the last couple seasons and thought they were on the cusp of that. And some of that talk was a little quieter this year, but Dame has been very adamant about saying, I want to win a championship. This means a big deal to me. I want to do it here. He just came out a few days ago and talked about wanting to have a parade down Broadway. And so right. When you talk about that stuff, you set those expectations not only for yourself, but as an organization. And when you fail to meet those, someone, kind of as a fall guy or someone. Fall, right. Yeah. And so, that's one way to look at it also, I guess.
I feel like with Nurkic healthy and McCollum healthy, I think they're probably worth another 6 or 7 wins, which would have put them at 48, which would have put them third. Then I don't think there's as much whining. I think it's unfair to hold a coach to a standard of winning 48, 50 games in this type of season with your second and third best player missing 60 games. That doesn't make sense to me. And you look at like Doc Rivers and the Clippers. They didn't reach expectations last year. So Doc Rivers gets moved out for whatever reason. He goes to Philly, and look, they have the best record in the league. Clippers finished fourth. Obviously, the Clippers are going to be a contender. So sometimes it seems like in the NBA more than any other league, they'll just move coaches around just to move coaches around, and just get that different voice, so to speak. I feel like if he does get fired, he's going to get a job like right away. I can't believe there aren't NBA teams out there who look at what he's done with this team over the years and feels like, oh, we want that guy. He's gonna. Our offense is going to be awesome. And he's proven that he can win. He hasn't won a championship yet, but has he really had a championship roster? I don't think he has. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens this offseason. Me personally, I'm not looking forward to covering a coaching search. I'd rather not. But sometimes strange things happen in the NBA. I will say this too, though. Not that a player is ever on Zoom going to say, "Oh, throw the coach under the bus." But I've asked Lillard, was it the players or was it the coaches? He said it was the players. The players had, he said the coaches prepare us. We have to go out and do it. And a lot of times fans don't want to say that. They want to think, oh, the players, they're all great. They're marvelous. It's that idiot on the bench. I know I can't play like the players, but I can coach. I can coach like Stotts. I could roll the ball out there. I think sometimes people actually think that. And so that leads them to blame the coach when other teams beat the Blazers, because it couldn't possibly be the players' fault. It must be the dumb coach.
Couple things I would add. I agree with you 100%. Terry will land a job if he wants one this coaching cycle, if he were to be let go. Another thing is, talking about Doc. Doc kind of brings an incredible coach, a championship coach, obviously. There is a certain amount of, for whatever reason, drama that tends to surround wherever he coaches. And either he gets done with the organization or the organization gets done with him, or some type of combination. I mean, he's coached, obviously, the Celtics and the Clippers, and now he's in Philly. He's been at some iconic destinations, and he's won at every stop along the way. There has been very little to no drama from the coaching standpoint, from the
Right.
at least outwardly. And Terry goes outwardly, annoyingly so to us, the media, to protect his players. And he really has a reputation for that. And I've talked a lot over the years about Portland isn't a sought after destination until players come here. Every time players come here, Carmelo Anthony, case in point, they really love playing here. This is about basketball atmosphere, between the fan base, the passionate love of basketball and the Blazers, and the no drama atmosphere. They really tend to fall in love with it. As long as you're not here for quote unquote lifestyle, if you don't want the New York or LA lifestyle, it's an incredible destination. And a lot of that is set from the top down, not just an ownership, but a GM and coach. And so, a lot of that has to weigh on it. And, let's not forget, Nate McMillan was fired. What has he done now? He had a good run in Indiana, and he has led the Hawks
Right.
from a mid-season firing to into what, the 5th seed in the East. It's crazy. So, like you said, there's a recycling of coaches, more so in the NBA, NFL too, I guess, but more than anywhere else. And sometimes there's no more rhyme or reason than just change for the sake of change.
So what do you think? Is he going to survive?
I don't. Again, A, it's too early, and B, I don't know. I don't know where the genesis of this reporting is from. Is it? If it's from an ownership standpoint, then maybe the ownership's already made its mind. I haven't heard that, so I can't say that for sure. The source of this has obviously not been identified, so it could be anybody, and who knows what the agenda of that source is. I will say the respected, like, I can't remember how it was phrased, but the pool of coaching candidates that was rumored to be replacing him didn't match up with the stated desire of coach that they were looking for to replace Terry. So from that
Jason
standpoint,
Kidd, Chauncey Billups, Mark Jackson, and Vanderpool.
yeah. Well,
Those are the
Ben
names.
wasn't on the list, was he?
I've heard. I mean, I don't know if he was on the list. I've heard people throw his name out there.
Yeah, because of his relationship with Dame and CJ. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, Chauncey Billups has never coached, so you're going to throw a first-time coach into the, or Jason Kidd, really? Mark Jack? I don't see it. At least not with that list.
I mean, to me, just hire. If you're worried about the defense, you think he needs defensive help, hire a good defensive assistant. And just go from there. But anyway, I personally think he's going to be fine. Like, I don't think they have another coach in mind who's going to be better. I don't know if there's another coach out there who's flat out better, who's looking to come to Portland. And I think they're going to end up retaining him, which will send some fans into orbit. All right. Moving on. Hold on. I'm trying to call up some stats here. Okay. How do we see this series? Got to get the stats. How do we see this series, man? What's going to happen?
I mean, do you want me to just straight give you my prediction, or are you like? Well, I mean, obviously,
for me, man.
Obviously, the focal point of everything is the presumed MVP. I mean, he's probably the 1 or 1A best player on the court. You have 2 MVP candidates who will square off, who played vastly different games. We have a rematch, different personnel across the board than 2 years ago. An epic 7-game series, won in the last minute. Arguably the best series. What's that?
Of Game 7 on top of it.
Yeah, no, incredible. On Mother's Day, by the way. And so it's the drama is there. It's too bad that Jamal Murray isn't a part of it. That both teams aren't healthy, and obviously that plays to the Blazers' benefit. They're also without Will Barton and someone else whom I'm spacing with. So it's going to come down to, is Michael Porter Jr. ready for this moment? Right. He is among arguably their second or third most important player now. Aaron Gordon, who's never, he's been toiling in Orlando for years out of the spotlight. Is he ready for this? And a lot of times these matchups in these series come down to playoff experience. And for the first time in a long time, the Blazers have, if not the edge, are right there. And I think any expert or any metrics, by whatever measure you look at this series, it's at worst a coin flip of who wins this.
Yeah. I am leaning Blazers because Murray's out. I think that really hurts Denver because their backcourt is now very iffy, and Barton with his hamstring is going to be iffy for the series as well. I mean, he may return at some point, but how good is he really going to be? So their backcourt is pretty marginal. Dame is just back to being MVP caliber Dame, and with Nurkic able to put a body on Jokic and at least make him work, I think that all overcomes the obvious height advantage issues with Porter Jr. out there at 6'10" or whatever he is, and then Aaron Gordon at 6'8". One of the small guys is going to have to guard one of those two guys at some point. Well, it's going to be Powell. He's going to either end up on Porter or on Gordon. That's clearly at advantage Denver. But I do believe that with Murray out, if Murray were playing, I'd be like, yeah, it's over. Denver's going to win this series. But with the way the Blazers are playing, Lillard being hot right now, I think they're going to take it. I think they're going to take it in 6 or 7. It's going to be a fun series. And the Blazers are going to survive the first round. I can't believe I'm saying this, but based on where they were 3 weeks ago. But yeah, I think they're going to win this series.
Hold the fire, but we agree. I think the Blazers are going to win in 6 and move on to the second round. And going back to the conversation, I don't know what that does for Terry's job status, but it certainly makes for a fun postseason around here. Not having Jamal Murray. Denver's strength a couple of years ago was their depth, depth and their potential defense against Dame and CJ, and the Blazers still won. And so now, from that team, you don't have, I'm spacing on some of the guys, but you don't have Craig to guard some of these guys. And Denver has traded away some of its depth to have, to get the Aaron Gordons, and they've thrust Michael Porter Jr. into a more prominent role. So not having, their 1A and 1B player there with Jamal Murray is really a backbreaker to them. And those types of absences usually get exposed in the playoffs over, with the course of a 7-game series. And so between that and just the way the Blazers are playing, and I have a hard time counting out a Damian Lillard led team in this type of situation. I've just seen it too many times before. And so I've got the Blazers in 6, Aaron.
Also, the first loss at Denver came after they got blown out by Phoenix, and that was without CJ and Nurkic. I think they lost by 5 or 6 points. The second loss came by 1 point. And there was someone else, I think, missing in that game. And then anyway, they took them down very easily in the last game. Granted, Denver didn't care, but there's no track record that says Denver head-to-head is flat out better than Portland, even though they won the season series 2-1. And I think because of the injuries that Portland had, especially in that first game, I think there's more evidence that suggests that Portland is better. And had they been healthy all season long, and granted Murray has missed about a month or whatever, but still, had Nurkic and CJ been healthy, I think they would have finished ahead of Denver. So yeah, I think Portland's a better team right now. I think they win this series. I could go 6 or 7 either way.
Yeah, and really the West is as wide open as it's been in a while. And with Phoenix 2 and Utah 1, you question their lack of postseason experience. Neither one of Phoenix hasn't been in forever, and Utah keeps getting beat in the first round and certainly not going deep otherwise. And so that's a lot to play in the Blazers' favor. And it was clear, over the course of the last 3 or 4 days that teams were playing to avoid the Blazers in the first round. I don't think anybody wanted to play them, obviously. And so Denver kind of had to back in a weird way to the 30th seed to get the Blazers. And so I don't think Clippers obviously didn't want them, and Denver probably would prefer not to play them. So again, the Blazers are playing as well as they have all year. They're as healthy as they have been all year, and nobody wants to play them. So it's a tough out in the first round, I guess I'll say.
Now let's assume the Lakers beat the Warriors and get the 7th seed, so they would play Phoenix. So that means if Portland beats Denver, their second round matchup would be Phoenix or the Lakers. I would assume a healthy Lakers team beats Phoenix. Therefore, we could, to me, if Portland plays Phoenix, I think that's a coin toss series to me. Portland could definitely win that series with the way they're playing. Lakers, though, no. I would take Lakers all day because they have really good defensive guards, and LeBron and AD plus Drummond. It's just ridiculous if those guys are healthy. They're going to roll right through the Blazers. So Blazers fans definitely root for Phoenix in the first round. Heck, root for Golden State to knock them down, and then hopefully maybe the Memphis Grizzlies or San Antonio Spurs can knock them off and get the Lakers out of there. I don't think that's going to happen, but that's what you want to hope for first, and then root for Phoenix if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I saw today the Los Angeles media is saying that Anthony Davis says he's fine, and LeBron James practiced and said he will play in game one or in the play-in game, first game for the Lakers. So what a weird scene where the Lakers are the potential 7th seed. And I will say the thing about that team obviously is injuries and can they stay healthy? Not just LeBron, who hasn't played in so long, but Anthony Davis, who is chronically injured, and so that's that man. I don't know. We'll see how that unfolds and how that first round unfolds, because you get a hungry Phoenix team, and I know I just demeaned their lack of playoff experience, but how fun was that Blazers Suns game the other night? That went down. Yeah, that went down to the wire, and so it's kind of a butting heads of styles there. It would be interesting. It'll be a fun series to watch.
Okay, last thing. Who's winning the title? Give me a prediction.
Aaron Fentress for surviving the season. Congratulations, you're close, my friend. You're almost there. I believe in you.
Thank you. Making the adjustment from a 16 game NFL season or a 12 or 13 game college season to 72 NBA games, even though I didn't have to travel, thank goodness. Yes, it was definitely an adjustment period. So I do appreciate you acknowledging that, given that you suffered through 14 82-game seasons. Anyway, but you're not going to give a prediction? Is that what you're saying?
No, I don't. We'll talk again after the next round where I find out who's playing who. I'll let you make the predictions.
Okay, I've got Nets. If the Nets are healthy, the combination of Durant, Harden, and Kyrie will not be touched. I don't care about their defense.
You think Kyrie Irving, who's talking about the awful stuff going on in the Middle East right now, and his mind is elsewhere, gives 2 iotas about a first-round playoff series with the Nets, who have James Harden, is it a hamstring or whatever he's got going on, and KD, who if you think that is the model of stability.
I said if they are healthy, no one's going to touch them. Now, if someone gets injured or what have you, or Kyrie leaves the team, I can't control that. I'm just saying if they are healthy, they won't be touched. Now, if you want to factor in all these other things, I can't predict what's going to happen with the team personality-wise or injury-wise, but I do think by far they are the best team when they're all rolling.
I think it's, looking out of the East, call me crazy, but I think Milwaukee is kind of lurking in the shadows there. You got a team that flamed out early and has struggled in the postseason. They kind of, reevaluated and retooled their lineup for that reason. And a Drew Holiday Giannis combo in the playoffs, that's spicy. That'll be fun to watch. Keep an eye out for them. Remember now, that's my dark horse East team right there.
So you're picking Milwaukee in the East? Okay.
I didn't say that.
If I can get you to pick someone in the West now.
My dark horse. It's my dark horse Eastern team.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it there then. You're a chicken and I pick the Nets. Just kidding.
That's fine. I could take it. Dr. Nets.
All right. Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Blazer Focus Podcast, brought to you by Bi-Mart and Fred Meyer. We'll be back again soon as the Blazers roll along during the NBA playoffs.